Episode 340. Here we go. We're a bunch of goers. We're a bunch of doers. We're in it to win it. We're locked in. We've got Esports World Cup news, and we have news approved by the most beautifulest, most fairest little customer service department I've ever done seen.
Nice.
And we got other things like and such as and or how Yiska.
Yeah. You're definitely the kid that everyone thinks about in the meme from like how old would he be? Probably like 23.
Now? Yeah, probably.
Right?
Or he just like stammers over himself and just starts crying.
You could do and do like it could do everything. Yeah. No.
It's me. I'm him.
Yeah, no, I can very much empathize. I did a similar intro to that this week on a new format. I hate it. Like I feel like
mine was on purpose. I don't know if yours what.
Cope.
Okay.
I think it is it's like I need to warm up, you know, when speaking and when like going into the mode of recording, and then it's like sometimes you have to adjust to the conversational style. It's warming up. I'm never stretching in. I'm always like, I think one of the things that folks, if anything, are always kind of irritated by is like, hello, here's 3 questions and 4 side points. Please, respond to it. And then they're like, hello to you too. And I'm like,
yeah.
You gotta be quicker, mate. You gotta be quicker. Like,
we're not here to F around. We're not here to muck about.
Pretty much.
We're here to jump right into things and get you learned. Get you learning. What you been up to though? Before we get into the most excitingest, beautifulest news.
Well, as you can see, I'm still kind of in my running gear. Still haven't had time. The problem is like I kind of need a cooldown period also from running. So did that. Did a little bit of gaming this week, just like back on the old Dyson Sphere program. Other than that, yeah, just doing the do, you know?
Beautiful.
How about yourself?
Hold on.
Oh. Chat, this is an intimate moment. We're alone, okay? Eric is still here, but he's basically a ghost in the walls, okay? So I'm not sure if I'm going to leave this in, if I'm being honest with you. Also, if you're wondering why I am currently staring at the camera, the reason is I got a teleprompter, like a
oh, did you really?
Elgato one, yeah. I treated myself.
Shoot.
I'm actually not really like I'm browsing, but I'm directly staring to the camera. So that's
you're not using like the NVIDIA I look at the camera tech?
No, I'm not. I'm it's actually an Elgato teleprompter. It's kind of good. I kind of dig it.
Huh. Very cool. I know that's been something you've talked about in the past, but I don't know if you would ever pull the trigger.
No, it's easy enough to use. I'm interested in the efficacy. I haven't done any to like deliver to camera work, which is the primary reason I got it, right? Like when you do intros or whatnot to certain things. I feel like we've acclimated to the tone of, or rather to the custom of people not directly looking at the camera during podcasts. I think that's just like it doesn't track as like something that is rude in some way or whatever, right? Like it's pretty much like the mental readjustment that someone, like if they look in that direction, they are very likely looking into someone else's face, and that's respectable. So like I think for podcasts is really a minor thing, but I think for deliver to camera work it will be quite good.
Yeah, it's kind of important. That makes a lot of sense. Like if you're, it's meant to be like to the audience member, not just a conversational thing, then yeah, I would imagine you'd want to create a little eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. All right. Well, we have some group stage stuff going on. We'll get through that as well. Obviously, we have some interesting little tidbits with Blizzard CS kind of kicking off right now. Some discussions around there. I'm not one to really just sit and like debate free speech, but this is a little like that's kind of weird.
Oh, no, really?
Little weird. I mean, that's just me. Like, I'm not gonna sit and be like, "Oh, this
I
is
also,
what you
I also
kind of
really,
can't say."
I also don't think it applies in any way to how people want to, private companies want to moderate
Yeah.
their discourse on their respective platforms, right? That's like that aspect is not really an argument for me. I think what is an argument is that it doesn't make for a good customer experience when you have to switch to. I guess let's talk about this. Are you aware of the linguistic concept of register?
I can't say that I am.
So register is actually quite easy to explain. So basically, like, while you speak English, you speak different Englishes, right? Like,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
speak English differently with your doctor than you will speak it with your parents, then you will speak it with your niece, then you will speak it with your superior and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So if I have to legitimately put on my work register in order to communicate with folks in online recreational stuff, I might as well be working, right? That's the mode I'm switching to. I don't want to be forced into the register of not having to look after my every word, especially because
Yeah.
you know mild curse words, profanity, like shit and
Can
fuck,
be
is really not an
actionable.
issue, right? Like
Yeah.
it's good tone to use them as you know periods in a sentence, right? That's much more frequently the case, even amongst friends and whatnot. So I I I think there's something afoot there. There's probably a reason why that's occurring. I'm also a little annoyed around the discourse in terms of how it's being held, because I don't know that that there's any political decision behind it. But yeah, do you want me to unroll how this went? Because I know you're not that familiar with the subject in general.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with exactly how this all happened. I remember there was like a tweet that somebody was like responding to, and like that's kind of all. That's the gist of what I had caught, but I don't know if that's necessarily up to date or if there's been more developments and more stuff. Like I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So in order to get you out from under your rock, which is a Sisyphusian task, so basically, I think it's fair to say that the discourse kicked off with there was always something bubbling under the surface. Also, people in my Twitter mentions pointed out that this has been a reoccurring issue over the last half a year. So prior to the takeover of Microsoft, and also prior to the layoffs, even though I expected to exacerbate the issue. So basically, what happened was there's a collegiate player called Derpy, and he tweeted that he would like to talk to an actual person because he only got automated responses. And eventually, he turned to Twitter and reached out, and customer support basically said that there's, a lot of F word and sh word in there. Now, by the way, I find it pretty reckless to call it F word.
Oh, actionable. Yeah, that could mean a couple different things.
And I guess you would say F slur for the other thing, but yeah, like maybe not everyone would understand that, but
sure.
So basically, of course, there's also we have to be fair and say that they have an escalation mechanism. So what happened basically is that Derpy was banned from competing in the upcoming collegiate tournament, which starts in May. So that's an extended, or I'm not sure if it's a permanent ban or if it's just because his account is therefore no longer in good standing. That much wasn't disclosed, right? But basically, like that not good standing is now extending so far that he is unable to participate in the collegiate event for shit and fuck. Now, we also have to say, if someone has such an escalated, punishment, there's probably something happening prior.
Maybe something more.
Right, like there's an escalating punishment mechanism at work. You start out with like a chat disablement, then like you might get banned for a day or 72 hours or whatnot. Like to be banned for a long time or to not have an account in good standing for such a long time. Probably something happened prior to this. Still, the customer support pointed out, among other things, that the sh word and the f word were used. And then in several other replies to other users, they pointed out that no profanity has ever been allowed, which is something that, for instance, Pete pointed out is patently untrue, right? The thing then, like, of course, then the community digs further into statements made by customer support, and it turns out that customer support has said that profanity in any shape or form, be it abbreviations, be it mistypings, be it censoring it, with the little star or whatever, and just hinting towards it, all of that is actionable if reported. Okay, so basically, you can report Cassidy. Is the logical right? It follows from that because he has the baddest motherfucker belt buckle.
Yeah.
The BAMF, right?
Yeah.
So, also, like other characters like Tracer on some skins saying Wenka is another subject that's being brought up. So, there's a little bit of a hypocritical stance here. I will say, maybe not necessarily, because what Blizzard tries to wash their hands clean with is basically saying you can't say it, you cannot just not be reported for it, right? And I guess in a super sane society, I mean, nobody would be cursing anyway, but like, let's say if the report system worked accurately, then the people playing the game would make the judgment call whether or not the profanity was used in a way that was too far, right? And it's definitely possible to use these words in a way that's too far if it's too aggressive and whatnot. But some of them are actionable even by, slightly higher standards. Now, okay, I have a crackpot theory. What's actually going on here, right? So, I think this has been an ongoing thing. The communication around maybe a mild policy change, because there's definitely has been a policy change. You definitely were not banned for saying shit and fuck, even if reported 7 years ago, right?
Right.
So I think what might have happened is that they just had a change in how the moderation generally works. And there could be many ways how they do this, right? Like, for instance, maybe the threshold of required reports in order to automate the system to cast a sanction on the account has been lowered, and therefore is a higher frequency of these situations occurring, right? That's a possibility. Because I did not... It's another possibility is that it always has been this way for a while, and it's just becoming a topic now. Definitely possible. It's just strange that the frequency of it would spike, but maybe that's a perception bias on my part or on the community's part in general. I will also say that it is a weird coincidence that customer support has largely been fired during the layoffs in January, right?
Yep.
So there were 1,900 folks being let go. Famously, a lot of their customer support was let go, like their GM system and whatnot. And that was pointed out during the time by some insiders that was a thing. So it makes some sense to me to say that if you do not have the manpower, or if you're an outside company now coming in, a third-party company that has to do the review, not the automation, but the review of those, that they will that they will act differently. Now, I have no knowledge of that. If there has been indeed a policy change, internal policy change, how things are being interpreted, or if it's just like different folks judging that, or if the threshold is lower, whatever it is, there's a reason for it. And economic pressure seems like a cogent argument to make at this point, right?
Sure.
I think there are good reasons to pursue it, to pursue something about chat. It's possible that like someone that is in charge of customer support, or rather the social experience of Overwatch sees that there's a very low participation rate, for instance, for voice, right? And wants to fix that.
Of course.
I don't think profanity is one of those ways to make it be the case, right? Like I agree, and I think there must be a thread from 2016, I think, that I made on our competitor on our Overwatch, actually, saying like we have to establish a culture of talking in games, even at the lowest level. And once that culture is entrenched, then hopefully that sustains through it, right? Like, hopefully, like it just becomes common practice to talk because it's so important. And also, like, talking to everyone in your lobby just makes Overwatch a much more fun experience. I think that's
Definitely
for all shooters. That's pretty much true. So, unfortunately, I don't know what your experience is, but especially in Europe, under a certain level, there's just no talking whatsoever, and it like you will not even get a like hello guys back or something, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I think the last few times that I've played Overwatch, I know that I typically will never participate. Like I've spent 20 years online and maybe 15 of those like actively playing like competitive games. There's just nothing good you typically to come from chat on average, and it usually like will lend itself more to performance dips. So like I'm one of those people who like actively does not engage with chat functions. I'm very much of a proponent, like even in like League of Legends, like just mute everybody, don't join voice chat. Like it's for the times that it is good, it's really nice. It's just you can't control that. And to be honest, I don't know that like Blizzard can either, but maybe that's a different conversation.
I feel like in League it's much less required in solo queue than
for sure. Yeah, Overwatch it's
right?
Infinitely CS 100%. Like I won't get into like the importance of like calming in specific games, because obviously that's different for each game, but it's just not, you know, not something that I can control, and I would rather just like invest more of that into, you know, paying more attention to the game, not necessarily getting, you know, tilted out of my mind, or just getting frustrated and wanting to stop playing because I enjoy the game. But that's just me. I know that can be a little bit tricky for people that, you know, do want to improve, and like calming is it when you do get it, specifically in Overwatch, and I think in like games like CS as well, when you do get people who are like actively trying to like communicate and work together as a team, and it's not like giga toxic, it can be like a transformative experience. It really is like something super, super cool that you just don't really get elsewhere, I think. And I think it's commendable for game developers to be working towards solutions to try to create more of an opportunity to have a higher like density of those games, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think this is the way you go about it. You know, I'm not saying that's I'm not saying that's what you're saying. That's obviously very clearly not your stance. I think just more clearly drawing out to the listeners that like this is really weird. It's like very strange to me that like as I think as a society, I think we're pretty like open to like some cussing and, you know, like some foul language. It's pretty normal. Obviously, again, like I said, 15 years spent playing online competitive games, you can hear some pretty like heinous stuff, and like that should be that, you know, there's no reason for, you know, women and people of color and, you know, marginalized genders to be coming out and like posting videos of pretty targeted harassment. Like that's very clearly like not okay. Like you should not have to fear trying to communicate in a video game or just on an online space. But I don't know that it's, you know, I think it seems like the threshold for a lot of these reports are a little low, and some of the
it's just not fun.
It's weird.
It's just not fun, right? I think there if the lack of interaction in chat is actually the problem. And I think like in many ways we have some patchworks, right? Like the ping system was extended, therefore people do not have to talk as much. I think that's a fair choice. There's also you cannot fix societal problems in a video game, right? Sometimes you just
100%.
have to
you don't need to be
adjust to that.
light again.
Like we have talked about folks, submitting their linguistic profile and therefore, being shorted down in voice, and that's not great, right? But there's still something to be said about maybe Overwatch is just like, because it's such a stressful game and what it does to the psychology of everyone involved, because it's so intense, always on, and like high input and whatnot, that it's more challenging. I think if I had to say, I think this developer is just less cool with toxicity in their voice, which is, I mean, you can think about that what you want. I'll tell you, CS is almost unplayable from that angle, but still, like a willingness to communicate, I think that it would just make it for a better experience if that was possible. And I would even say that, and this might be an unpopular take, that there are emerging tools, especially around artificial intelligence, that may assist in having better moderation and better classification of folks. I'm aware, for instance, of a product that it tries to look at how people interact in games and try to sort of find those moments where like the tone sours, right? And where performance goes down. And if you can identify those moments, you can do something about it in game design, if it's caused by game design. Or if it's a reliable thing for the particular viewer to engage that way in your video game, then you just get them in a shit queue, right? Like just put them in with the other shitters or directly punish them, right? I think there is something that Overwatch has tried, but once again, it's a self-reporting system that's imperfect with the commendation system, right? So it's really an afterthought that generally does not really impact matchmaking. And maybe there's an idea to be made about being a bit smarter about the moderation, because I'm sympathetic to manpower not being a solution here, because it just, think of the sheer amount of chat that you have to go through, and like even sensibility of on tickets and whatnot. It's very hard to enact a cultural change at this point and make it more fun again, because I think a lot of it has to do with the cultural zeitgeist of the particular game. Like, is it fresh? Like, what's the general mood around the game and whatnot? That sort of transposes itself onto your general experience when playing. But I would hope there are smarter solutions than just outright saying like blanket banning profanity and having that be a policy.
That's a little draconian.
Because I mean, let's be honest, it just makes people weaponize reports, right? Like as soon as someone drops,
like, oh, you said something bad, I'm telling mom. Like it's not really,
this guy didn't
using the system correctly.
Didn't pick the hero that I wanted, and he said, "Ah, shit, I missed the headshot." Well, that's a report, right? Like just because of out of petty reasons that ultimately shouldn't be bannable, but can be weaponized. So I think that's almost a more likely scenario for that particular policy to be used, that rather than actual applicable scenarios. So I think whenever it's just not a way to govern this. I would also hope that there is some nuance for the esport in particular. Like even if your account is banned, I think an admin should be able to access the ticket and potentially judge and make a nuanced call whether or not that person is eligible for to compete in these leagues. Because especially I tried to report on this, unfortunately nobody really bit, but false reports are not a small issue in the collegiate scene. Also because there's sometimes scholarships attached to them. right?
100%. Yeah.
So, like sometimes it is. Wait, let me align this again. It is more serious than just like a video game situation, right? So sometimes there are scholarships on the line. Sometimes there are, I mean, even just competitions on the line, and maybe it's
Yeah.
undue, right? And that's unfortunately a byproduct of this automated system that hopefully will find some way to be amended with smarter moderation
Mm-hmm.
and a more nuanced take. I think it's much more efficacious to try to engineer the culture than to punish bad behavior.
No, 100%. And I think that's kind of like where, like, you, on the tail end of that, I think you get to like where my kind of next question is like we've seen, I think, a lot of developers lean more into trying to, I don't want to say reward good behavior, but like all of
Yeah.
these like commendation ranks, like it's not, you know, lost on me that there is like this big push, like game, like across the board in gaming, to really have this like almost secondary ladder that you can kind of climb that shows that like, oh, you're a good teammate. I guess my question to the audience, both and you, is that like properly weighted? Like, is there a proper reward for like being a good teammate and being a good chatter and being a good communicator? Obviously, we have like very clear like anti rewards or punishments.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you are a poop person, if you're just like a little trash bag, you're gonna get banned and all your progress is gonna get deleted and you're gonna get a slap on the wrist.
I'm gonna be
Is
honest.
there an is
Yeah.
there a carrot on a stick for the other behavior? You know?
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like I don't know enough. I feel like there were rewards before. I think the larger issue is not even the incentive structure around behaving well and gaining that rank, but rather how the interaction of commending someone works. It's
Okay.
it happens in a situation where you're already checked out and very often just like quickly quitting. And
Sure,
really,
sure.
like only in the most ridiculous of cases will I even consider commending someone
Like, yeah.
just because they were so nice or kept their cool when others were dickish or something like that, right? Like I wouldn't
Yeah.
I wouldn't dream to leave a commendation at that time. And I think there's a particular behavior that makes it more likely, but I'm not sure if that particular behavior is generally conducive to actually being a person that facilitates good discourse within a
Yeah.
team. I think what needs to happen is a difference than self-report system on commending players. I think they're and if not, then the interface needs to change in some way that as to make it trivial or as to reward the when you interact with commendations, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Unfortunately, like it very quickly dips into like social credit scores and whatnot. Like, how many
Yeah.
stars did he have? Like, we're not judging Uber drivers here, right? We're playing
Yeah,
video games together.
we're not trying. I think it gets a little like skeevy when we get into like trying to engineer a culture in a game, but when there is such a like big difference from like playing in a five stack of people that are all trying to communicate versus the experience you get typically on like a ranked ladder. And this is like pretty ubiquitous across like video games. So this isn't just like an Overwatch problem. Like the gameplay experience is so much better. Like it is completely elevated to a degree that you can really kind of fall in love with something and you always kind of want that back. And I feel like developers have always been trying to chase that. So I understand like where the pressure comes from, where you want to try to cultivate the best community possible. This just ain't it. You know, like I think we're moving in the wrong direction.
No.
Um and that's just, I don't know. Obviously, I also feel really kind of gross saying that like, oh, we should like celebrate people doing well or being like good people. It's like, well, you have to celebrate that. I feel like that's just the standard, and that is true. Like you shouldn't have to like carrot on a stick people for just being like tolerant or understanding or having any kind of like communication skills. Like that's not something you should necessarily have to maybe celebrate, but maybe that's the direction that, I don't know, developers need to go.
The thing is, you have to look at game design in some ways, right? Like there are games where it works relatively well, and maybe it's just in the very fabric of Overwatch where you cannot necessarily change anything because of what it does to the cortisol levels of folks that are playing this game, right? But maybe not. Maybe there's something else underlying, right? Like if the same experience, there are different mechanisms that it could be, right? It could be filtering for more toxic individuals, for instance, right? Which I doubt.
Sure.
Generally doubt that that's the case in Overwatch's case specifically. It could be the case that it pisses people off more to do badly in Overwatch, and that they feel less agency, the outcome of their matches, and feel more at the whims of their opponents. And I feel like the game design has addressed this over the last couple of years, especially with Overwatch 2. It's part of why 5v5 happened. They're good, like they addressed it in some way. And I guess they're just like chopping down the lowest hanging fruits here. And I think there are not many more left other than the commendation UI, or coming up with, a shit queue like Dota does. And yeah, it's not a trivial thing to solve.
No, it's not an easy solution. That's for sure.
So be that as it may, I think the current state of affairs will need addressing. I also, like, beyond the topic, without being too much of a "can I speak to your manager, please" person, I feel like the tone on social media of some of those customer support representatives is just not. It's just unbecoming. It's not professional. Okay. I realize that it's probably a different emotional situation for someone that has just read the logs, and I'm sure a lot of these people are actual shitheads that will say despicable things, and then the GM looks at this and goes like, "Why are you asking why you're banned? You little wretch! Now I can't even tell the world why it is, right?" I'm sure that there's that energy in those folks as well, but sometimes it just feels a little condescending, passive-aggressive, and I think that can be directed at folks that like, either you put nuts on the table and tell the world what they did and do a right light smite, right? Or you just like professionally say the ban will be upheld, GG, right? Those are your options. Everything else is just an optics L, and it leaves a sour taste in my mouth.
That's fair. I think it is a little odd to have, because I don't feel like they've. That's where I think, circling back to the idea that there was like a policy change or like an attitude change when it came to, customer service. I don't feel like this has been like this in the past. At least not for like Overwatch's neck of the woods.
No, I think that's also something that ZP said. Like, it's not been like this for 7 years. It might have been like this for 12 months, but it has not been like this for 7 years. Like, that's a little gaslighty by the customer support service, and it's also a little bit down to the way the code of conduct is written, where you can realistically interpret everything to be offensive or to be an actionable offense under the wishy-washy code of conduct framing, right? Like, one of those guys was called out for like too sternly trying to shot call this team is just like not okay or something, and it's like, oh, really? Like, that's I don't know. And maybe by the way, there are scenarios where that's true. Well, like, if someone just like insists to impose their view or their opinion on others, and the 4 others are actually team playing, and then it's one guy trying to play in-game leader, that can be annoying, right? So still, like, I think the engagement in the subject just is not a great look, and is honestly in many ways more annoying than the usual use of profanity, I would say.
Yep. Like you're saying, there is like there's other avenues where the community could be moderated. And I don't think this is necessarily always a resource thing, but it is weird that this is taking the cake when there are definitely other,
yeah,
instances or problems that, could be addressed and aren't getting the spotlight that this is. But I think that's also probably the nature of customer service. It's one of those invisible jobs where you really shouldn't notice it,
Yeah. Great.
One of those weird little instances in culture. But yeah, weird little happening in the neck of Overwatch. And before we completely move on, I do want to give a shout out to our patron producers or YouTube members. We didn't forget about you, trust me. But when Yiska gets on a tangent, I'm not stopping him. I'm not getting in that way. I've done that one too many times, and boy, it's not a good sight.
It's a trolley problem.
It's a trolley problem. Yeah, a little bit. So episode 340 is brought to you by Refined Meat, Bronzebot, Buhal, Lulshan, Rexane, and Sasquatch, and our YouTube members IMDRW, Brother Adam L, Isam Jello, Fire Element 6, and AK. Shout out to Sasquatch. I believe that is a relatively new or returning producer.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Love you out there. In more direct Overwatch esports news, we do have a little bit more information regarding the Esports World Cup.
Correct.
And how teams are necessarily qualifying for that. I think all of the assumptions from, the Dallas winner, from the Face It League standings, everything's kind of like everything at a glossary glance looks correct. I guess before we jump into the feelings around it, what was your first take of it?
So, there are other stipulations that are not covered by the tweet, mainly that if an Asian team was to win, then they obviously do not get another. So just for the audio listeners, I'm just going to read the follow-up tweet. In case of the Dallas Major, only NA and EMEA teams are eligible for the spots due to Asian teams already being qualified. The top 2 team has already qualified for EWC. The slot will be transferred to the next NA and EMEA team in the final standings. Now, and I guess for the audio listeners, I should also explain that the first and second, so the finals participants of Dallas, of the first OWCS major, will be directly invited. Then the top 4 of OWCS Asia, that would be those that participate in the tournaments of it, right? Not Korea, it's all of Asia. All of the participating Asian regions. And then there are I believe 6 slots for Face It, for the league winners, or the podium, I guess, in NA and EU. We can talk about how that's a little laughable as well. But that's the thing. So, like, we have OWCS and Face It League invites. Also, keep in mind, Face It can, of course, not run in Asia because that's WDG's region, right?
Yeah, and they have their own platform, right?
Yes. And then, let me shove it up a little bit. It's also a Face It Latin America and, crucially, also Oceania. And you also, drum rolls, we're so back, baby. And I think this is a little bit of a foreshadowing as well, if you want to know my honest opinion on this. They will invite a China team. And I would strongly consider this to be the Spark team. And I think they probably, or rather, the Leaf stack that has been playing together. I strongly consider that these guys have known this for a while, right?
Probably, yeah.
And then we also get a slot for the region where the Dallas Major winner comes from. Okay, so
okay.
That's also interesting. I'm not 100% if that also includes the caveat in the follow-up tweet. So whether or not this particular slot would also only go to NA and MEA. I assume it's not the case.
I would imagine Oh, okay. That seems kind of a weird
And I also am
thing.
not sure what winning region means, if it's just like major region or sub region. So are they giving the Dallas major winning teams, um, are they giving it to Asia, for instance, or to Korea, right? That's uh, like how specified it is. I would assume it's Asia.
Yeah.
It's the major regions. So that's still a couple of question marks. But overall,
Mhm.
it's 6 teams. Now, honestly, the Faceit League invites, I get it. For those that don't know, Faceit is an EFG company that is basically part of the same general pool from the public investment fund. And therefore, EFG, or ESA Faceit Group, works relatively closely with the Esports World Cup Federation. And therefore, it made sense that the integration here, and you will find that there's actually more slots given to teams from the Faceit League than from OWCS,
Yep.
that would be a thing that would be considered for the Esports World Cup, right? They are, of course, pushing their own product in some
Yeah,
way.
of course.
So that the reason why it is a little bit laughable is because the signups have been mediocre at best.
Okay.
Right. I think you are also aware that they actually
Face It is just megaphoning anybody that will listen or has any kind of connection to a community that is.
Yes.
They're just trying to reach out and
if you
grab hold of anybody.
If you played OWCS and your Twitter account is somehow recognizable, or your Discord account, you've probably been messaged. Like I saw Diamond Stacks getting like, what? Are you planning to play Faceit League? If so, why not? Like, all these customer questions.
Yeah.
And I think the line sign up, I didn't actually look, but it was relatively low. By relatively low, I meant like last time I looked, it was like 21, right?
Oh wow.
So
That's like
it's
shocking.
nothing, right? And
Yeah.
there are several reasons as to why that's the case. It's behind a paywall, for one. Like every member has to pay an entry fee or like a subscription service to Faceit, that then they justify it by saying like it goes back into the prize pool, which is fair enough. Also, once again, I'm not at all against monetizing esports players or viewers in some way, right? Like that's fine with me. But it's the needs in Overwatch has just not been created to the degree that it was in ECA, for instance, in the North American region back in the day, or in Faceit, indeed, in Europe, right?
Sure.
So for those unaware, these ECA and Faceit services in Counter-Strike are primarily used because they have a better anti-cheat and they have a better moderation about the cheating problem. So whenever like your ranked ladder becomes too cumbersome and there's too many cheaters because you're too high up and you're just getting annoyed with it, you probably are much more willing to buckle up and pay a little bit for the access to, a better client, better service, and a cheating solution than you would ever do in Overwatch. Unfortunately, the problem for Overwatch is that its rand experience is too good, right? I would say. Someone brought something up. I'm not sure if they would mind me bringing that up, but I'm just not going to sell it as my own idea. But honestly, like the best way you could probably promote Faceit League is to develop cheats for Overwatch, right? Like it's unfortunately the case how these things work. So the fact that if it is really under 30 competitors, I strongly expect that we will see the usual suspects, a lot of the top 16 indeed, in both regions from the respective Western regions. And therefore it's less exciting. And you would also, the crossover of those teams from NA and EMEA that will make it to the Dallas major and actually have a chance to win it all, it's probably pretty high overlap with those that will do well in the Faceit League, right?
Yeah.
There's honestly like 3 good teams in NA and EMEA, I guess they call it.
EMEA.
So it's we're here, right? Like it's unfortunately the reality of competitive Overwatch at this point, and the certification of team skill is just so heavy that this is a very likely outcome at this stage. One, because I think eventually will become better because skill decay will grab, but for now, this is what it is, and unfortunately, there's really no way out, and it will degrade competition a little bit for sure.
100%. And I think on the topic of the Face It League in general, is it? Am I still under my rock when I say that it's like the most like forgotten about aspect of like the new format that we have?
The Face It League itself?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think not many people like OWCS already has not a great PR.
Exactly. Yeah.
Face It probably is even further out, and even if a lot of people know about Face It, I expect the pay hurdle to actually be pretty substantial, right? Like, it's unfortunately the case that it takes a relatively high amount of dedication to competitive Overwatch to get 5 people on your team to all pay $6 or whatever it is for a season. Yeah. So, unfortunately, that's currently the state of affairs, and as long as Overwatch, the game proper, does not point people towards the esports ecosystem, it's unfortunately also not going to meaningfully accrue more signups. I think for all intents and purposes, the signups for OWCS were pretty solid. They went down, I think, 20% by stage 2. That's fine. That was expected.
Typical. Yeah.
But the signup numbers were still relatively healthy. So, I think Uncoachable talked about it being a PR issue, or rather, was it Chris who said that for now they believe it's a PR issue, but like if it's proven otherwise, then we have different problems of, not having a demand.
And this
for it.
Is this for WCS that they were referring to, or is this for Face It?
Face It.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, what is it a PR issue? Yeah, it's an issue that like nobody might not even realize it's like a thing. Like, is the average player, is the diamond stack that you're referring to, like, are they actively like, oh yeah, we could play in the Face It League? Like, is it more of a barrier entry? Is more of the problem the barrier to entry of like the payment and the subscription? Like, is there a
all good questions?
I guess, yeah. Like, is it because there's not a broadcast for that either, right? Like, what value are you like really getting other than like a competition, right? Like, I think it's pretty clear that like we have not developed a strong community of like competitors. Like, this is not the community that like loves to like challenge themselves and like compete. Like, this is more of like, we liked our skins and I'll see you next season. Like we've not done a good job of cultivating a competitive audience that is trying to hone their steel, if you will, right? Like, that's just not what this has been for a long time. So yeah, something's got to change there for sure if they want to keep that supported.
There's also a second issue that sort of arose from, I'm not sure if you followed this.
Probably
but
not.
The Esports World Cup also announced its total prize pool, right? And
yes, I did hear about this.
The total prize pool is 60 million, which is of course like a ridiculous number. It's the largest prize pool. Even though I struggle to say it's fair, like to compare to TI. TI is one game, Like,
sure, yeah.
So TI was 40 million, Gamers 8 was 45. This is 60 now, right? And in it is included the prize pool of 20 million for the clubs, and then 30 billion for all titles. Now, keep in mind, we have 19 titles at this event, right?
Yeah.
So quick maths, we're at like 1.55 million per title, on average. Now, there is publicly, we already know that 2 of those esports had $3 million prize pools. PUBG Mobile, I think is one of them.
Yep.
And we know that for last year, for Gamers 8, Dota 2 had a ridiculously large prize pool. And it's probably expected that, including the qualifier, they're probably scraping at 10 million again, right? That all drives the average down. So yes, there comes some caveat games in there. I think it stands to reason that maybe solo games will be gaining less. It stands to reason that other smaller esports titles that are participating will not be gaining or having as high prize pool. But still, overall, you kind of have to consider that Overwatch might be under the 1.55. Now, you might be saying, oh, Yiska, well, that's amazing, right? Like 1.55 for Overwatch? Have you looked at the clock? Yes, but unfortunately, I think a lot of folks thought it was more. And also the discourse around it is pissing me off a little bit, as if these folks were like, reckless in their negotiation. I agree. There's some wishful thinking in there, which you had to have in order to continue doing this.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
Like I think there's through the grapevine, there were several numbers that were always like bouncing around behind the scenes, and they were definitely higher than 1.55 million for Overwatch, and it seemed to me that interested teams were facilitating that. Now, keep in mind, a lot of those teams already are in pre-agreed established business relationships with the Esports World Cup Federation. They are all NDA'd up, so like they are the people in the know, and they communicate that they are in the know, or like hint a little bit. We know, like, oh yeah, Overwatch, blah blah blah. And if that's part of your negotiation, and you intimate or hint towards what the prize pool might be, that will give an indication to the players or coaches also, where they want to put their priorities, right? And one major part of these negotiations for your contracts, of course, is always the prize pool share against your regular season salary, right? So some folks prioritized having a higher prize pool share, let's say 90-10 or something. There were offers on the table for 50-50, right? It's a basic calculation. Like, you can judge what you're realistically going to get. You can estimate what that would net of the total prize pool. You can slot in the prize pool itself. You can look at your prize pool cut. You can do all the estimations, how all of that will break down, and make a reasonable, within one standard deviation guesstimation where you will land, and come up with a suggestion where you want your securities to lie. Do you want a higher prize pool share, or do you want a higher base salary? And based on that, you're picking and choosing offers. Now, if the prize pool is much lower than some of these organizations maybe implicitly communicated, that might feel bad for some of those competitors, right? Now, I will also say, and please treat this with the greatest of cautions. It's possible that we already know more by the time that this episode is official, but there appeared some German sites had more clear definitions as to what titles are getting what kind of prize pool, right? The graphic looked relatively believable. It was only disseminated across German-speaking parts of the community. It just, like, knowing, journalism, it feels like one PR guy fucked up and it sort of disseminated that way.
Okay.
But it was also taken down by some reputable German magazines, right? So that all of that leads me to believe that either it's false information, or it's credible, but it's too early. It's an asset that shouldn't have. And I can tell you, and I don't want to spread misinformation, but I can tell you it was lower than 1.55 million, the Overwatch prize pool, right?
Huh?
So now we're looking at a rate where, like the rumors were twice at least of 1.55.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and you can argue that's a wild assumption for a game like Overwatch. But then again, it's a first time event, and there's also reason to believe that they could be buttering that much in. The other thing is, like, would Blizzard even allow that to have a price pool this high and devalue their own product in the process, because they're not going to reach remotely the same heights, right? And therefore, de facto,
that's
EWC.
crazy, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, for instance, other leagues were already handicapped in their price pool in comparison, right?
That I could understand. I think that, like, if Blizzard is waving around a big stick like that still, run very far, get away, dodge, avoid, use your evade button.
Do you mean leave the scene, or?
I'm not saying like leave the scene. I'm saying like that is not a good sign that they're cutting their nose off in spite of their face, like, yet again, that they're like overly trying to helicopter parent whatever Overwatch both is and potentially could be. I think there's definitely a non-zero chance that Overwatch can like grow into something that's like semi-sustainable and like is okay, and it's like a tier 3 esport and maybe even gets into the tier 2 scene. Great, love that, awesome. I think the only way that can happen is if Blizzard really makes it a fertile open ground to have third-party tournaments kind of come in and do what they won't. And at this point, I think it's pretty safe to say that they won't, because this is, I think the reason why I feel so confident in saying that they, like, so definitive in that statement is that this is the year to really kind of not put up or shut up, but this is the year to like really start off this new system of Overwatch esports, and like the investment from Blizzard side is understandably pretty low.
Yes.
Why is it understandably pretty low? Because they've had to pay out the Overwatch League settlements, all that stuff. You know, they just had a bunch of money just burned at the stake for their project, right? We get it. I get it. I don't think it's fair or even smart to then, and I'm not saying that this is happening, but if that is the case, and they are running around with a big stick and just like trying to police what other third-party tournaments, and I'm going to completely just speak unbiased, you know, everybody can think what they want. I have my personal views on, you know, what's going on with the Esports World Cup. I'm not gigantically a huge fan, TLDR. Think what you want. But I don't think it's right or fair or smart for Blizzard to be running around and being like, oh, you can't, but you're going to devalue our product. And it's like, you tried and failed. I'm sorry. This is not up for debate. You gave it your best shot and it was fun while it lasted. You don't get to run around and still police anybody anymore. And if they are, I think that's very dangerous for the overall like health of the community, or the, like, you know, not actually dangerous when it comes to like litigation or anything, but like that's not a good sign. That's not bolstering confidence, let's say, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not a good look if that's happening. I don't think either of us, maybe you would know. I definitely don't know. I watch games and talk about them. I really don't particularly care to get into like the industry politics of things, but I'd be lying if I said, man, I hope they aren't doing this. It's definitely been a thought that's like crossed my mind. You know what I mean? Like, boy, I hope Blizzard has learned, because this would be the time to get it right. I don't think it would be such a detriment to the wider like TO landscape to hear that, like, oh yeah, Blizzard's like back at it again, like kind of limiting people. Like, it doesn't matter like who you are. Like, you can only have so much. It's like, I don't know. Is that crazy to say?
No, like, sorry, I'm also a little distracted because that's good news. I can give that to Eric. Eric, just don't show the thing I'm posting you on. Don't bring it up. Like, we're not supposed to share those, but just for Joe.
My eyes only, audio listeners.
It's not a leak. I can talk about the what's inside, right? So
Okay.
that's brand new 5 minutes ago. So basically, let me bring this up to the OWCS for NA and EMEA, right? Like the message reads, we're announcing some slight schedule adjustments for the main event of stage 2 in OWCS and NA and EMEA. Our goal for these changes is to show more of our games on broadcast and catch all the action. Please see the change log below for our changes which are reflected here. And then they've adjusted several schedules from day 1 to 4 to just show a little bit more of the matches. So that's a great adjustment. Once again, quick iteration, and also responding to the feedback by the community that it is kind of a shame that OWCS NA and EMEA just show less matches. I will say I haven't looked at this with a critical eye. It could be framed weirdly. I just don't assume it is. So if that's indeed more matches being played and no more matches being broadcast, or not played but broadcast,
yeah,
then that's awesome, right?
Yeah. I think that like having now, am I correct in saying or reading that this is more for the not the group stage, but like the main event? Yeah, I can never remember what we're calling it these days. This is more for the main event, that there will be more broadcast days for the main event. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's good news. I think my suspicion then, the thing I worry about in between the lines here is I hope the broadcast talent is being compensated for the added workload, because it would not shock me for Blizzard to be like, so, hey guys, thanks for this all hands meeting. Thanks for coming in on short notice. What we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be adding more to your workload and paying you the exact same amount. So I'm so glad you guys signed those agreements ahead of time. Isn't that so wonderful? Like, I hope they're compensating the broadcast talent. I don't know. This is obviously very news. This is very new. I would certainly, I wonder. I do wonder if that is the case. I'm speculating. That is pure speculation on my behalf, but I'm hoping that that's the case. If that is, then this is a win-win. Everybody, this is great. We need more broadcast days. We want more matches to be seen, especially in the main event, because let's face it, I think it's safe to speak for the both of us, where it's just like I could not care any less when it comes to the main event, or the group stage rather. The main event is the only thing I really care about. Like, I'm not going to sit here and watch every qualifying group like we did last week. We'll probably gloss over some of the results of some of those games, but I'm not going to sit there and fine tooth, twisted minds dunking on the top 500 master stack that, squeaked through in like 9th place. Like I just can't be bothered. I'm sorry. But yeah, hopefully this is just all good news. Question mark? I don't know. Is there anything there that like worries you outside of like the
I
broadcast
just
talent?
Can't, like, currently I do not have the ability to really look what they actually added, how many more matches are,
sure,
if they cut anything anywhere else, right? Like broadcast talents, day rates probably are set, but maybe they're extending. I'm not sure. I'm already kind of surprised that we're getting some of those previously non-booked guys that already said like we're no longer in like Custer and whatnot on it. So that's great. I think I would have to look at it with a critical eye. I think just hip shooting that information without looking at
it's not. Yeah.
Even though I will treat that right now, but yeah, I think more broadcasts can only be good. It's hard to just like hip shoot constructive criticism if there was any.
I get that. I feel that. Yeah. To kind of quickly circle back to the Esports World Cup discussion, you kind of had am I wrong in saying that there was maybe a little bit of a take brewing when it came to the Chinese side of things, that they're getting an automatic invite there? It seems to be, that there was probably some communication or some foot traffic done by the Face It admins, or the administration for the World Cup, to reach out to some of the top Chinese players and make sure that they're going to be interested in competing, and make sure that spot would be utilized. Am I wrong in kind of sussing that out? Like, was there a little bit more to like the Chinese invite that we haven't necessarily gone into just yet?
No, I don't think.
Okay.
I mean, I'm interested how China is going to be handled going forward in
sure.
OWCS, right? And I'm trying to find out what's going on there. I'm sure that some indication was given to Chinese teams to in some way. I assume a large part why Leaf's team, for instance, remained ready was because of Esports World Cup. But otherwise, yeah, it's hard to tell.
No, 100%. I hear that. It is a good sign. I'm glad that all the deal with NetEase is being pushed through. I don't want to say expedited because I genuinely have no idea how quickly that's gonna get passed along. I know that from my understanding, at the very least, it's like a government check, and that could take a while. But there again, it's already been checked before. So is this just like a stamp that needs to be hit and notarized? Who knows? I can't comment. But it's good news, right? It's a good sign. It's another region that can add to viewership and, again, propagate fandom to hopefully have Overwatch esports become a little bit more evergreen, right? All good things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also just felt a little like I understood that NA, for instance, were kind of jealous of WDG, right? That they broadcasted all those matches and they were all LAN and like all of that. That's just, it felt better. It sounds like the tried and true broadcast talent from the Overwatch League, right?
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, that's the beauty, of third-party tournament organizers kind of competing and also taking on some criticism from the community, that we're seeing relatively quick improvements, right? In that. And there are more things to make improvements on, but yeah, it's not bad that this is happening for sure.
No, not at all. I think it's definitely for the best. For the best, we need China back. I think we talked about it last show about how important that was to viewership, and it's always been a big viewership driver. So love to see it. Love to see it. Last but not least, new season ventures out, but will not be usable until after Dallas. Am I remembering that right?
Correct. That's another thing that we found out is that Venture will not be activated or eligible for play before Dallas, right? And the reasoning being, like, of course, like competitive integrity to some degree. I will also say maybe there's more at play than competitive integrity. It could also just be that you want, your LAN event to have the new hero and therefore feel a little fresher, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't hate the decision. I think, like, from what I could gather from teams, they don't expect it to be a particularly, meta hero, but you never know. Before it hits scrims, you never know.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It is. I think there was at least one prominent coach that I think I saw tweeted out that they thought that it could be if on the patch that they were scrimming, if Venture was enabled, that the meta comp would be something like Venture, Cassidy, Lucio, Kiriko.
Interesting.
And I don't remember the tank. It was something in Discord that I saw that I was just like, oh, interesting. I don't know how I agree with that, but I also don't really have too many meta opinions these days. But that being said, that is something to note. But should we quickly get into some results and skedaddle?
Sure.
All right, beautiful. We'll start in EMA. But how did you say that the kids were saying EMEA?
Yeah. So what is it with you and like trying to find the proper pronunciation for double vowels? That shit kills you, doesn't it? The Imperio?
Oh yeah, I don't.
Joe was tilted. He was like, "What? Diversity, inclusivity, and inclusion? What?"
Yeah. No, Diempiro. I think my the brain that scrambles the words. What is that called?
I mispronounced it just now. Crazy. It's fucking okay. We're both cooked.
What am I thinking of?
You're right.
Eric, help me. What am I thinking of? The brain. When your brain do the scrambling of the words and then you say it funny. Dyslexia. There we go. Okay. Yeah, my dyslexia kicked in giga hard last week and even prior to the show.
That's a beautiful description by dyslexia. Holy shit. Me when my brain makes scrambled eggs, dyslexia. Like, come on, mate.
Hey, listen, I work in mysterious ways, you know.
Beautiful.
What can I say?
Beautiful.
But yes, starting in EMEA, Space Station making it out of Group A, shocking absolutely nobody, not dropping a map. I think the surprise is that Super Shy is actually doing quite well, which is I think the only name here that I remember is Sobek, and I don't even know why I know that name. Is it mythology related? Maybe. But the fact that they took EXO to game 5 is not only impressive, but like, you know, kind of a statement.
And they have to do the tiebreaker.
Again. Yep. They have to do it all over again in the decider match. So that is set to be played in a couple days. So definitely stay tuned there because it would be quite crazy to see EXO eliminated.
Why is EXO playing Spy again instead of playing... They never played Schmungus, right? Oh, that's kind of weird. Huh.
Yeah, GSL it's GSL groups, yeah.
GSL group, yeah.
They would never have to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind
of... A little luck of the draw there, but...
I just, like, would think that GSL groups would favor direct comparison over, you know, not force a rematch. But, whatever.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But yeah, Group A, it turned out to be a little bit more interesting. I think that's like kind of the story with EMEA in general, is that it was a little bit more interesting than I think people were ready for. Shocking that it's the more interesting region. Because even in Group B, ENCE getting taken to map 5 against Team Peps, which was pretty surprising.
Yeah.
That's not a result that I thought was ever going to happen. I thought ENCE is, you know, one of those powerhouse teams that should be on the caliber of Space Station. And I don't think Team Peps are, you know, shams or, you know, frauds by any means, but it's been a little rough for them as of late. And that's a good showing. That's a really good showing, especially going into the main event. More broadcast days, more eyes on the team. That's all good things.
Rumor has it that Gamba took a Finnish player behind the barn and shot it for, you know, emotional regulation after that match. It's just not something that should be played this close, right?
100%. Yeah, you can't. That's not something that is going to instill a lot of confidence. But I don't foresee that being a problem for too terribly long. But it is funny that Gunba is becoming some sort of like fascist leader that has to instill morale by having nobody surrender and just, you know, instilling a capital punishment of sorts. It's this metaphor of this colorful little title or mantle that he wears is just growing day by day. Group C, shocking nobody, Twisted Minds, and a bunch of red teams. I hate that I have to say that, but I know next to nothing about them.
Yeah.
It's not anything personal. They're red teams, man. You got the blue teams with hyperlinks and red teams that I don't know about. So there you go. Diempiro. I keep getting your name wrong. So shout out to you guys. In Group D, Peace and Love, which was formerly, I think, Team Abhik. I think a slept on EMEA flex support, leading the group. Love to see it. Love to see. I think he was collegiate before. Is that what I know that name? Yeah, it was Wisp. Yes. I remember this. Yeah, they were quite good during the pro am. So excited to see them do well. Yeah, any and interesting other little takeaways here? Did you catch any of these games? I would guess not, but
I did not. I did watch Ants Peps actually.
oh, okay. What did you think?
Bit of
Anything
a shit show.
interesting? Oh, okay, love that.
I think arguably both teams did not play to their full strength
Potential. Okay.
And honestly, it's really only by the power of Christ, Kevster, that Ents pulled this through, right? Like it was like one man show for a lot of the.
That's concerning.
Maybe a little.
It's concerning because how do I put it? Like, I know that the discourse at the end of the main event for last stage was like, "Oh, Gunba through, he can't coach, yada yada yada." I don't necessarily totally buy into like all of that discourse because I agree with, I think both his stance and Chris's stance that like there was a lot more going on there than I think the public realizes, and that's typically always the case. But I do think there is something to the Occam's razor idea that like you have such a talented player, like why not try to give them the ball if something isn't working? I think the only criticism that I would levy against Gunba is that the adaptation didn't come quickly enough to get Kevster on a playmaking role and really allow him to kind of cook. And I hate that that is the case, but when you're kind of caught with your pants down a little bit, and who was it? Twisted Minds was just like running stuff that like you had no idea, like weren't prepared for at all. Like you kind of have to be a little bit more agile. I think that's my only criticism. I mean, this is again a world championship head coach that I in one instance celebrated the creativity of. So that was my only like weird point. And to hear that that's still kind of, it's not the same issue, but it's still very like, if Kev not shoot everybody, we know win. Like that's a little concerning to me. I haven't seen the game. Maybe I should take a glance at it before I give too deep of an opinion. But I think that's always gonna kind of, is that the kind of the blessing and the curse of having like a superstar, is like you kind of always have a default, but it shouldn't always have to be that default. You know what I mean? Like is there like a catch-22 there that maybe I'm kind of getting caught up in?
Yeah, playing with a superstar inherently for everyone else on your team is really like driving, like learning to bike with like training wheels.
Yeah.
In many ways, right? Like you never really have to. So I
even if
agree
it's subconscious,
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily always have to be the case, but if you can just have Kevster like get off sim and go play Tracer and you have a 30% increased teamfight win chance, then why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And that already kind of like stymies how you progress through the meta and how you get your, how you can practice, because again, lo and behold, guys, when you devote like scuttle a multi-million-dollar esports league, practice devolves a little bit. I would imagine, I don't know, I'm guesstimating here that practice is going back to the idea that like we have to win scrims.
Right.
And that's not necessarily the best, but it's what we got. So
yeah.
Well, what can you do? It is kind of a dog eat dog world out there, so you gotta do what you can.
Mm-hmm.
So North America, yeah, the most boring region. Period. The end.
True. Vanilla
nothing...
as fuck. Quite a few good teams. All of them tossed into different groups. Snooze fest.
Big snooze fest. Just nothing all that interested. I think I'll start reverse order. Students of the game, former OWL talent, not dropping a map. Shocking. Bunch of red teams. We'll see how they look as the week progresses. I will say the fact that M80 is dropping maps is a little strange. No? Is that a little weird to you? Is
dropping
this like
maps, maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, I would imagine, like, I feel like I would have caught this, but I'll leave it open. Like, Happy and Pelican are playing on ping, yeah?
I'm not sure if they've traveled yet, but they are going to.
Yeah, I would hope that kind of irons itself out, because I feel like a team of that caliber, again, a team of the caliber of Happy Pelican, Hawk, Lyre, Violet, um, that probably should be one of these 6-0 groups. Like Pirates and Pajamas is not bad by any means. I've got some names like Zolik, Magic Mate Ball, Taejong. Like, these are names that, like, I've clocked before. Not bad players by any means, but are they the same caliber as, like, title owl title or owl stage title competitors? Probably not, right? That's a little weird. I will say, I think from Group B, it's interesting the fact that Luminosity is the team to really be, like, leading the rhythm of that group, and not Timeless. I think this is a big, if memory serves, just fact check myself here, that Luminosity is still partnered with Maryville?
Yeah.
Question mark. Okay, still a thing. I think that's a big win for the collegiate scene, that you have a team that's, like, competing and doing extremely well at the what is now, like, the top level. So love to see that.
I'm interested what that might mean. Like, if that's a team that goes to Dallas, which they might.
Sure. Yeah, definitely could be.
And if they were to get an EWC slot, which they might through Faceit League, would they attend as a American university? Would that be a problem?
I don't think it would be under the banner of Maryville. I think that would probably be more of, like, a sponsorship kind of question, or like a logistics thing. Like, how is it, would that clash with, like, the collegiate schedule or their studies? I don't think that it would be under the Maryville banner. At least I would imagine.
No, it would be under Luminosity, but they're still, like, students, right? It's still
I would assume
athletes of. So I'm not sure if this is a trivial one. I could see it.
I definitely I'm picking up what you're putting down. I don't know. I would imagine that wouldn't be an issue, but maybe there is some.
If anything, like, it's kind of weird that why would other collegiate teams not compete in OWCS, given, like, how possible it is?
Oh, they definitely are. Like, I think UCI was on the boards for a hot little bit. I think they were, like, narrowly. I want to say it was UCI. I could be wrong. I think there was a couple other collegiate teams that, like, have been competing and just, like, have narrowly missed out. So I think they are. It's just they haven't broken through just yet.
Yep.
And then like, outside of that, I think the other, like, notable names in, like, collegiate, I think they're competing on other teams? Question mark. I think, like, the collegiate teams have, like, broken up in the OWCS competitive ladder, and they're kind of playing on other stacks, while the collegiate team is just sticking to the collegiate, I guess. I don't know. I'm not entirely too sure, but I think that could be happening.
Cool.
And then Toronto Defiant absolutely smashing their group. Shocking. Absolutely nobody. It's sad that Korea's not going in, because I would really like to watch a little Korea right now.
Yeah.
There's a hole in my heart that needs to be filled with some decent Overwatch, and I have to wait until the main event, which, do my due diligence here, starts at the end of the month, the 25th.
Mm-hmm.
This is April, yeah?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Yeah. Okay, cool. April 25th is when the EMEA stage starts, and it's the same for North America. That's pretty much it, I think. And did anything else we need to cover?
I don't think so. I think we got it.
We got everything. Anything coming down the pipeline, my friend?
Yeah, I actually, like, as I hinted in the intro, I recorded a new format with an old name, I would say.
Okay.
Tackling the first episode was a little, bouncy, but we'll figure it out. On a relatively dry subject, but with large implications for Overwatch esports. As to we discuss a lot like what these leagues are built for, what they're trying to aim at, what kind of improvements they want to see in the broadcast structure in order to attract most fans. So,
and is that out or is that yet
no?
To be
I still have to work over. Like I have to build new assets. Still not sure if we're just putting it out like that or if I should cut it a lot or we'll see.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. Yeah, that's 340. Yeah, 340. We're not 430 yet. That'd be crazy. Yeah, that's this episode. We'll see you guys next week with more games now that we're going to be getting into the main event. Trust and believe. We're going to be getting into some X's and O's, so stay tuned next week. Be safe. Love your face.
Peace.